Han Sen practiced with Dongxuan every day, and when he wasn't practicing, he spent his time playing Hand of God. Playing Hand of God actually aided the training of his perception, and especially so since he was going up against bots. Highly advanced AI posed a far greater challenge to him than humans did. The primary reason for this was because of the AI's reaction speeds, which far exceeded that of ordinary humans. The AI always knew when the next light spot was to appear. With AI as your opponents, you would need brilliant abilities of perception. After 2 months of constant practice, Han Sen's perception with his Dongxuan aura only continued to improve. By that time, it had almost wholly caught up with Jadeskin's 8th sense. Congratulations! You have beaten Hand of God's super mode. After getting the final light spot, the announcement played to congratulate Han Sen. At the same time, the whole community of Hand of God played the announcement. Evolver class player Win a Girlfriend is now the first player to complete super mode and has been granted the title Hand of God. The announcement played 3 times across the entire community and brought everyone to a standstill. Holy smokes, is that for real? An Evolver finished super mode? Who is that powerful? They must be cheating. How can an Evolver finish super mode? He must have been single for 50 years, willing to do anything to win a girlfriend. I don't think the system can make mistakes, but I'll echo your sentiments and ask how an Evolver could possibly pass this difficulty. Unable to cope with the number of requests he was suddenly receiving, he simply decided to turn on his busy status. The only person he accepted sent him a match request. Player God's Third Hand has sent you a match request. Will you accept? God's Third Hand was a very famous player in the Hand of God community circles. Over the past 5 years, God's Third Hand had managed to beat out every other professional Evolver Hand of God player, coming first place in 4 of the annual Hand of God championships in the process. Everyone knew his name in the Hand of God circles, but even he had yet to beat super mode. Han Sen had spent much time battling the AI to beat the hardest difficulty. To keep going was pointless, but now that a real person had invited him to play, his interest was reinvigorated. Thinking it might be fun, he accepted the invite without hesitation. The match started, and every eye in the audience turned to view their hands. With bated breath, they tensely anticipated the appearance of the first light to show. Whoever hit 100 light spots first would be deemed the victor. The first light spot appeared, and everyone looked at Han Sen's hand. Much to the surprise of everyone, the hand moved relatively slowly. Did he really beat super mode with such speed? 1-0. Whoa. Seeing this, many people made a variety of different noises indicating surprise. God's Third Hand was faster, so how could Win a Girlfriend grab the light spot first? That confused many people. Win a Girlfriend now moved to God's Third Hand's side, looking as if he was about to steal his next light spot. God's Third Hand's face looked cold, and he did not believe his opponent's speed would be enough to beat him. Han Sen's hands were not fast, and they were most certainly slower than his own. But God's Third Hand had not managed to grab a single light spot. It was so strange, it genuinely made him feel as if he was having a bad dream. Even if he was playing against the AI, cheating would only enable him to react faster. He couldn't actively work to block an opponent from grabbing a light spot. AI could not predict the decisions of a human, but even if you did not directly compete with the AI, you could still manage to grab light spots for yourself. For that slow speed to prohibit every approach by God's Third Hand was something not even the AI was able to do. It's like he can control fate itself. This person is the real Hand of God, the audience thought to themselves. Many Hand of God professionals analyzed the match, since the details of the match promised to bring the game into a new era. Previously, it was entirely believed to be a game of speed. After one match, it was revealed to everyone that it could be something more. No longer was it about collecting points through speed alone. Now it was about prediction and foresight. A new era began, and this match was officially documented as a guide and a showcase for players. And so, as it was handed out more and more, it became even more widely known. Many people wanted to uncover the identity of the enigmatic Win a Girlfriend. Some teams and organizations even placed a bounty for any concrete information that could aid in the discovery of who the player truly was. But after time elapsed, with no progress in such investigations, the trail went cold. Han Sen no longer had any interest in playing Hand of God. He decided to return to the sanctuary, since the sensing abilities of his Dongxuan aura were almost on par with his Jadeskin's 8th sense. Han Sen returned to the Emerald Lake, in the hope he could find the dinosaurs that had been said to reside there, the parent and child. If they did not live together, then Han Sen thought he had a fair chance of killing them. After the silver fox had eaten the second-generation devil eye spider, it seemed to have grown up quite a bit. Its energy flow had almost reached the same level as the fairies. While these changes occurred on the inside, little happened to its exterior. It looked practically the same as it always had, so it didn't seem as if it was yet an adult. Han-sen pulled out the corpse of the silver-winged butterfly, and the silver fox's eyes began to shine towards it. The silver fox hopped onto Han-sen's hand in the hopes of swallowing it, but Han-sen suddenly pulled back his hand. He looked at the silver fox and said, "Little Silver, I treat you better than I would my own son. I give you everything. If you ever think to betray me, I will never forgive you. Do you understand?" The silver fox used its head to rub Han-sen, as saliva drooled from its mouth into the fabric of his clothes. When Han-sen put his hand down, the silver fox leapt off and gobbled up the butterfly in a second flat. Its body seemed to shake and tremble afterwards. Silver lightning suddenly burst forth from it, like silk. This static silk crackled and weaved its way around to encase the silver fox in a silver cocoon. Han-sen used his Dongxuan aura to watch the cocoon and took a surprised notice of the chaotic energy that swirled inside. It was like a volcano, preparing to erupt at any second. Is it finally growing up? Han-sen felt relieved. He was worried that even after eating the silver butterfly, there'd be no change. If so, Han-sen hadn't a clue how much longer it would take. Han-sen did not know how long it would take for the silver fox to finish its time inside the cocoon, either, but he didn't fancy waiting around. So, he stuffed the cocoon inside his pack and resumed his journey to the Emerald Lake. The Emerald Lake sparkled green, and all you could see was the green unspoiled surface reflecting the sky above. It was a gorgeous view to behold. Upon reaching the lake, Han-sen walked around its length but did not find a single super creature. He used his Dongxuan aura to scan the water. He could only scan up to a depth of about 10 meters, despite how deep it truly was. As a result, he was unable to find anything. "Friend, have you come here looking for dinosaurs? A bunch of us have established a camp and with a fire, and we're having a barbecue." A man appeared and greeted Han-sen, inviting him to join in the festivities. It was rare to see a man so passionate and welcoming, so Han-sen did not hesitate to oblige and take a seat. They spoke together for some time, and Han-sen learnt the group was a bunch of friends that composed a squad. They all knew each other back in the first God's Sanctuary, but they all happened to be sent to the same region in the second God's Sanctuary. Such an occurrence was highly unlikely, and so they took it as a sign that they should form a team. "Which squad are you from?" Liu Yuni asked. "My squad is a bit special. It is not appropriate for me to discuss their affairs here." Han-sen smiled. "A special team, huh? Has anything interesting hit the airwaves? Is there any juicy gossip you can share with us?" Someone else asked. Just as Han-sen was about to tell them a story, he heard watery splashes. Suddenly, the glassy surface of the lake was disturbed, and the tide that caressed the grassy skirt of the lake began to rise. A wave that was a few meters high was generated, and it quickly came in the direction of the camp. Everyone, now drenched, looked out towards the lake. They saw something with the neck and head of a giraffe emerge from the water. This was much bigger than the dinosaur they had previously expected. Its body had to be over 100 meters wide. It was ridiculous. Near the monster, a little version of itself lay. Its body was smaller, at only about 10 meters wide. They both exited the waters and climbed upon the shore. At the ghastly sight, Liu Yuni and his team froze. It was rare to see creatures of such Goliath proportions inhabiting a sanctuary. "Boss, should we fight?" someone asked Liu Yuni. Liu Yuni smiled wryly and muttered, "Do you have a death wish? That's huge. Our weapons would only be capable of tickling such a fiend. Its tail alone could wipe us out." As their dialogue unfolded, Han-sen was already running towards the two creatures. He used his Dongxuan aura to scan them. The big one's life force, although blurry, was incredibly strong. It was a first-generation super creature. The small one's energy flow was running strangely, but that aside, it was clear. It was a second-generation super creature. The little angel flapped her wings and flew directly to the big monster's head, as Han-sen took off running to the smaller monster. His fitness had almost reached the level of a juvenile super creature at this point, and with the flaming Rex spike in hand, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to slay his target. The small black-scaled monster, seeing Han-sen run towards it, shouted. Its mouth became a black, gaping maw with a set of wretched fangs piercing out of that darkness. Han-sen swung the flaming Rex spike down towards it. The monster did not flee or evade the attack, and instead used its own head as a deflector. When the Rex spike collided with the black scales, a deep noise was emitted. Han-sen felt a terrible power surge into his hands from the monster's head, as the Rex spike failed to crack open the scales of the beast. The power that pushed back was so strong. It hurled Han-sen into the air and sent him through a few spins as he went. "That is quite powerful. This thing must have a really high vitality." Han Sen borrowed strength from the air he was born onto and returned to engage the small monster. Liu Yuni and his group were frozen stiff, watching the crazy waves that continued to surge out of the wild waters of the lake. Holy crap, where did this elite come from? He can actually go toe-to-toe with these things and potentially beat them. That angel-looking lady must be a pet beast soul. It's so strong and beautiful. What are you guys hanging around for? We should quickly retreat and fall back. The little angel invaded every inch of the big monster's personal space and attacked its head repeatedly. She wanted to strike its eyes and blind it, but the monster's vitality was extraordinarily high, and so its flesh was incredibly difficult to get through. Unable to deal much in the way of damage, even the little angel ended up dodging more than she could attack. Her greatsword smacked the creature's head numerous times, but its skull was sufficiently guarded by its hardy scales. Despite the effort of her attacks, only a shallow scratch mark was left behind by each strike. Han Sen fell back more and more, attempting to lure the smaller creature away. He was initially worried that the small one might not follow, so he prepared to use his Devil Eye Spider Beast soul in order to seduce it. But this was not necessary due to the monster's feistiness. Attracting it his way was the easiest aspect of the ensuing battle. Han Sen eventually managed to lead the small monster into the nearby woods. Its teeth gnashed in a fearsome bloodlust as it chased after Han Sen with murder in its eyes. Although the little monster was strong and powerful, it came as a surprise to Han Sen that it had evidently not lived for very long. It clearly knew little of the world at large. Now, seeing Han Sen stop, it gaped its hungry maw and leapt towards him. Just as the mouth came close, ready to tear his face off, Han Sen drove the Rex spike deep into the creature's mouth. The flaming Rex spike spun like a drill as flames blazed and wreathed their way around it. With Han Sen's surprise attack, the weapon was shoved deep into the monster's throat. Like mud from a manic drill bit, blood squirted out from the ravaged throat of the beast. The little monster squealed in absolute pain, but its cry was muted due to the presence of the ravenous Rex spike. Han Sen's heart pounded with the thrill as he channeled an infinite source of power into the Rex spike. His push with the weapon did not recede, and Han Sen slowly worked the weapon into the creature's stomach. The little monster let out a cry of pain after throwing away its violent aggressor, and this alerted the big monster to the little one's danger. Immediately, its concerned parent stomped its way through the trees to its aid. The giant, hulking body made the ground quake with each step it took. The lake was thrown into utter turmoil as it left the battered waters behind. Although the little angel wanted to stop the approach of the big monster, she couldn't deal a critical hit to the monster or find a weak spot she could exploit. Thus, nothing she did could grab its attention. Even as she repeatedly struck its scaly skin, the sword could do nothing. Seeing the big monster heading his way, Han Sen knew it would only have to take 2 more steps before it was directly in front of him. He knew he had to act fast, so he quickly retrieved his Rex spike and ran towards the little monster. Without thinking, he rammed it up the baby monster's butthole with all his might. The Rex spike was driven an entire meter up its backside, as blood burst from the exploited hole like unclogged plumbing. Its upper body had already been severely injured, and now its lower body was being quickly made the same. It squealed in agony and fell down to the ground. It exerted much effort in trying to stabilize itself, but try as it might, it could not stand back up. Han Sen was not content to stop there, and he was determined to push harder and end the monster's life as soon as he possibly could. But the big monster was approaching quickly, like a mountain bearing down on him. Han Sen knew he couldn't remain where he was much longer, so he pulled his Rex spike out and retreated. Boom! The giant monster brought another foot down and crushed trees and fallen logs into kindling. The diameter of each footprint left behind was 10 meters. Han Sen dodged the foot, but it only by a small margin. The little monster finally managed to regain its balance and stand up, then crawled nearby the bigger monster. When the big monster noticed the wounds its young one had incurred, its wrath was stoked. Wild flames of anger now burned for Han Sen. The giant monster roared and tried to crush Han Sen underfoot once more. The vitality-based monster was not something he could compete with, so Han Sen had no choice but to fall back. Han Sen cast arrow and used it to more easily evade the stomping of the raging behemoth. All the while, the little angel continued trying to attack the big monster's eyes. Her attempts were ineffective, however. The monster's neck was surprisingly spry, and it managed to duck and weave to avoid many of her strikes. As this was unfolding, Han Sen looked for an opportunity to swing back around and finish off the smaller monster. Unfortunately for him, the opportunity was taking its time and revealing itself. But during this intense observation, a new sound came from the skies above. A black and metallic tiger, one with wings, descended from the skies. It flew extremely fast, and within a second, it landed behind the big monster. Its forepaws shredded the little monster's body. Then, it grabbed the little monster, flapped its wings, and took off flying to the west. That beast starred. Trying to steal my kill, are you? Han Sen was infuriated, so he took off in flight and chased after the black tiger. Only Han Sen was allowed to steal the kills of others, and the thought of this black tiger stealing his kill was unacceptable. The big monster, when seeing its little one get captured, ignored Han Sen and tried to chase after the black tiger as well. The black tiger held on to the little monster with ease, despite how many tons it undoubtedly weighed. And it was still going too fast for him or the big monster to catch up. Han Sen was fuming. He was the master of stealing easy kills from others, but now someone had attempted to do the same thing to him. It was infuriating. In silence, Han Sen blitzed through the sky in pursuit of the tiger. The little angel and the big monster also went after it, and in the big monster's wake, giant craters remained as the soil was upturned, mud was flung, rocks were smashed, and trees were crushed. Han Sen was the slowest of them all. He was in the back, and the distance that separated them only increased the further they went. The little angel and big monster were both faster than him. Han Sen gritted his teeth and simulated light Son of God's energy flow. With this, his speed increased by a vast amount. Through this, he was just about able to catch up and not get left behind. Han Sen chased after the black tiger for 4 days straight, and neither of the creatures slowed down. Han Sen himself was unable to excuse the misdeed committed by the tiger, and with a burst of energy, swore to the high heaven he would catch up with the tiger and deliver its just desserts. The big monster felt the same. Gripped in the fearsome talons of the tiger's paws, its baby repeatedly cried out for aid over the course of their flight. Han Sen looked ahead and stopped. Amidst all the mountains that were connected, there was one purple mountain that stuck out like a sore thumb. The black tiger landed on its slopes and dragged the small monster up with it. The purple mountain was a strange one, indeed. It was very tall and its peak rested somewhere above the clouds. On this peak was what looked like a palace. Han Sen witnessed the black tiger land there, and suspected things were only going to take a turn for the worse. Han Sen recalled the little angel, while the big monster went on ahead. It seemed as if it was willing to do whatever it took if it meant securing the safety of its child. The purple palace appeared semi-transparent, as its appearance was masked and unmasked at the whims and travel of clouds. The black tiger raced its way to the top. The purple palace's double doors opened as if they were automatic, and with the squirming, screeching monster in its clutches, the tiger ran inside. Once it was beyond them, the doors closed and locked the big monster outside. The big monster was not willing to stop there, however. With its Goliath body, it threw itself against the gates repeatedly, in a bid to bring it down. The big monster had a width of 100 meters, and it was at least 50 meters tall. But in the shadow of that door, it didn't appear so grand. The giant monster's body used all its strength in hitting the door, and each thud echoed far and wide. But despite its efforts, the stone gates did not budge a single inch. The monster's wretched power was nothing in comparison. The monster used so much strength in each push, it fell backward a few times after every throw of itself. It would scream aloud after each failed attempt, and then try once more. Nothing happened. The stone gate was firmly sealed, and no matter how much strength was exerted, the big monster was unable to break down the door. Han Sen frowned and flew back up into the sky, keen to take an aerial view of the site and see what creatures were inside the shelter. But while he was airborne, the site was entirely shrouded by mist. Unable to get a good look, Han Sen felt his heart sink somewhat. With his eyesight and abilities of perception, he should have had no issue piercing the clouds with his vision. Strangely, he was unable to see anything. The clouds themselves were quite curious, however. Han Sen summoned his Devil Eye mask and ran the Devil Eye spider's energy flow. Keenly, he looked back at the shelter once more. Although Han Sen couldn't quite make out what was in there, he was able to espy the presence of a few flames that looked like life forces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Han Sen counted at least 5 super creatures inside. Of course, that was only what Han Sen was able to see. He couldn't be sure whether or not there were any more inside. Perhaps I will indeed have to just give up this pursuit. Han Sen gritted his teeth, hating his own suggestion. It was fairly obvious he'd be unable to deal with all the super creatures inside there, but he still did not want to just pack up and leave. It wasn't easy trying to locate and secure a second-generation super creature, so it was fairly bad for it just to be taken away from him in the manner it was. Screw it. I'm going to risk it. Let's see just how powerful this super spirit shelter really is. Even if I'm too weak, they'll be unable to kill me. If I can't get back the prey I worked so hard to nab, I'm going to mess this place up. Clenching his jaw, Han Sen ran towards the purple door. The big monster and Han Sen considered each other friends for the time being, and Han Sen was willing to try to help open the door for it. If they both got inside, it might actually be possible for the big monster to take on two super creatures all by itself. If Han Sen performed better, the prospect of earning a few more easy kills for himself would be delightful. Although the chances of this happening were slim, he was happy enough just to raise a little hell for the shelter as payback. Han Sen summoned his flaming Rex spike and tried fitting it where the seam for the double doors should be. As the Rex spike drilled into the door, countless sparks illuminated the area. But still, despite his efforts, the doors couldn't be opened. Not a single chip of the door was broken away, either, and now Han Sen was beginning to think it was too difficult. Boom! The big monster, seeing that Han Sen was unable to open the door, hit it once more. Its mouth spat out blood, and it screamed in pain. This is not going to work. Even if we barge in now, we'll be half dead. Death would be all but certain upon our entry. Han Sen gritted his teeth and flew into the shelter from above. The shelter was veiled in cloud, and he couldn't see a single thing. But right now, in his state of mind, he cared little. Han Sen was going to fly in, try to open the door from the inside, and let the big monster in. The fog lay heavy, and Han Sen made sure to summon his most useful beast souls before entering the mist. He pierced into the clouds without hindrance, but as he entered, a frightful feeling crept along his spine and chilled him to the bone. Han Sen saw a fire-wreathed shadow approach from his side. If he wasn't wearing his devil eye mask, he wouldn't have caught its coming. Dong! The little angel came over to cover him, and her greatsword collided with something in the fog. She was knocked back a bit, but before anything else could happen, their phantom assailant retreated into the deeper recesses of the mist. Before Han Sen could continue his journey through the fog, the shadow came at them again from another side. It was fortunate Han Sen was able to follow it as it neared, and command the little angel to respond appropriately. While Han Sen commanded her to deflect the shadow's incoming attack, Han Sen took advantage of the window of opportunity and flew faster through the fog towards the shelter. He knew that the shelter's walls were only 100 meters away, but it now felt as if he had traveled several hundred meters. And still, he had yet to see the ground. Oh no! The wretched realization that this was no ordinary fog dawned on Han Sen. He wanted to leave its stuffy clutch, but it was too late. Despite flying back a few hundred meters again, in the direction he had come, he was unable to exit. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.